Welcome into Fantasy AI. Moving on. Alright, back in the computer room again. Fantasy rule number 2. Fantasy rule number 2 is you don't have favorites. Gotta follow these rules to have a successful fantasy team, right? Hey, and there'll also be Carolina. We'll go through the fantasy roster for the Panthers after this, but let's get through. Rule number 2, no favorites, right? Can't have favorites. When I was young, or years ago, I had a favorite team, like Neil Lomax, Pat Tilley, Roy Jetstream Green, Dan Deerdorf was on the team. Been a long time, but I used to have favorite teams. You know, when I was really young, Bob Greasy, Miami, broke his leg. Still remember my sister and my older brother and my older sister riding me because I was crying. When he was a little boy, he broke his leg. You know, but anyway, favorites are fun. But hey, fantasy football steals that all away. There are no favorites, right? Rule number 2 is no favorites. What do I mean by that? Well, hey, fantasy football gives back, though. Steals that away, but gives you competition. You love that competition, where you're beating your friends or playing for money or whatever you're doing. You love that competition, be competitive again, right? Draft night. Oh, draft nights are fun. They're stressful. Sometimes you don't think you do good and you did good. Sometimes, but hey, draft nights are fun. You only come around once a year for that league, but hey, that's the most important night, right? Almost every game's meaningful for fantasy football. That's what it gives, right? Some Saturday, Thursday night prime time game. They've got 2 teams. You don't. Carolina versus New England, let's say, would be the equivalent this year. Just 2 no-place teams. But hey, you might have a wide receiver on that team, a tight end, kicker. You know, you wouldn't want a kicker on one of those 2. But anyway, or maybe your opponent has a player. Makes every game meaningful. Maybe you're scouting a player for that upcoming supplemental draft. All right? So every game meaningful it makes. So fantasy football, hey, favorites equals loss of draft capital. Whether you're in an auction draft or the snake back and forth draft. Hey, if you're reaching or doing something that you're not supposed to and you're taking that favorite, right? You're losing draft capital. Taking that favorite player in the second round when he should have went in the third round. Well, you're losing draft capital, right? We can't have that. So favorites, you ends up reaching for players, right? Just like that. You're reaching for players. You rationalize why you should take some players on your favorite team or your favorite player. You start dreaming up reasons why and how, and it gives you blind spots for that player. You might not see clearly if he's your favorite or you just got to have him. You know, overall draft strategy, it might change that, you know. So, got to be careful with that, right? But it works both ways, too. Let me give you an example here, too. You know, back in 2007, Tom Brady, hated him. Thought he was a pompous ass. Hey, can I say that? Oh, I did. Anyway, Tom Brady didn't like him. But by some reason, he was cheap in the draft that year. I took him. Didn't really like him, but hey, followed the rules. It works both ways. If you got to take players you hate too, if they're going cheap, right? Well, I took Tom Brady. Randy Moss thing happened that year. Everything went. He passed for 4,800 yards and 50 touchdowns. And did I know that? No, I took him because he was cheap, right? Didn't like him. Well, all of a sudden at the end of that, I started liking Tom Brady, thinking he was I could see it his way. He's just wanting to win, right? So, hey, works both ways. You get new favorite players, right? You know, even out of the players you don't like. So, moving on here. So, the thing is, no favorites. Works both ways. You got to take players you hate. You got to take players you can't take players you like just on because you like them. Got to be in the step, right? That's fantasy rule number 2. Moving on. All right. The players are taking the field. Carolina players taking the field from the Fantasy AI Data Center locker room. For today's show, getting ready. Here they are. Let's get started. So we're going to be going through the Carolina fantasy roster. Who's viable that you could use this year maybe? How about Andy Dalton? He's going to be the backup quarterback there. Currently not ranked. Entrenched as the backup. He's going to be a mentor to Bryce Young again this year. Dalton explained how the new regime is going to be helping Young and for more success this year. So he's got the mindset that he's ready to be the backup there. All right. Got in a little bit last year, but missed one game, I think, Bryce Young. But team is 32nd in passing. So you're not taking a long shot at quarterback on a bad team. Moving on. How about Tommy Tremble? Comes in as the second tight end on the team. Currently ranked 0. In recent OTAs, little Coach Speak said, hey, he was on fire today. Caught some end zone targets. He's doing pretty good there. Tremble was the offensive leading tight end receiver last year for Carolina. Hayden Hurst is gone. All that sounding good for him up until. Only trouble is, gee whiz, in the 4th round, they took tight end Xavier Sanders from Texas. So, well, he'll end up being the focal point later. So, Tommy Tremble, bench, or not even draftable. How about Miles Sanders? Another non-draftable. Right, had a career year for Philadelphia in 2022. Then got the big contract in Carolina last year, 4-year, $25 million in 2023. Here we are in 2024. He's a possible cut candidate. Try to save some money. He's 3rd string. If you can get any of that money back, possible trade. If you can stick somebody with a trade late in the year, something, or late in the preseason, if someone gets an injury on another team, they might come calling for Miles Sanders. Do one of those half paying for the salary, half not deals. Moving on. How about, here is Sanders, the tight end from Texas, right? Carolina drafted him at the 101st pick. So it works out to be a 4th rounder. Tap the brakes a little bit. The news is out of OTAs that Ian is making some noise in OTAs, looking pretty good. So just a muddled tight end room. I mean, obviously the future here is this Sanders. The draft investment and his skills are going to get him on the field. But hey, we're not waiting around on tight end on a team that, hey, is 32nd in passing, right? Now, this Sanders is ranked 28th for next year. So, moving on. How about Legit? Xavier Legit. He is from Carolina there, little hometown. 32nd overall in this year's draft, right? Figures to be the wide receiver 3 with those 2 veterans in front of him, right? So, might get off to a slow start. An injury or towards the end of the year, they're going to start bringing him in. Playoffs done. You always want to show off your talent, especially he works out to that's a 1st round pick. So you're definitely going to get into the game later in the year. But hey, they got him ranked 57th. You see, they don't even have Thelen ranked, but he's going to be stealing. He's going to be there ahead of Leggett. So 57th, I don't know. You just don't touch him. You don't take him. Moving on. There is Adam Thelen, right? Look at him. Hey, projects to keep his role in the slot was the news lately coming out on him. Deante Johnson and Leggett are going to be on the outside. Now, he did squeeze 1,000 yards last year out of 17 regular season games. So what's he going to do this year? Well, I'm thinking he's just going to bring the other people down. All right? His presence, they got to feed him. He's going to be there. It's just, what did he score last year? You see his weekly, 7-point a game. That you can't start that. I mean, early on you could. You got some flash out of him. But if you were still starting him after week 6, there you weren't getting nothing. So, just don't know. Hey, he's second ranked on the team, just there as a disruptor, right? Moving on, and here's their number one. He's actually ranked. We're into some ranked players now. He's ranked 41st at wide receiver. Deante Johnson, going to be the team's number one, presumed. 2 years, he's 2 years removed from a 169 target top 10 finish. All right? He's just 27 years old. Word is, there were complaints about not getting enough touchdowns. That's one of his complaints there in Pittsburgh. But we got to have a quarterback throw it to him too. But one of the best receivers at getting open, right, in the NFL, a lot of analysts say. Free agent contract this year, right? So after this year, they got him on a trade, so he's going to be a free agent, hungry, putting it up for a new team. So we go to that. Hey, we look. Here you got him ranked 41st. Got the 10th easiest schedule, right? So 41st seems right. I mean, there's a lot of receivers over there with more promise out there. But hey, late round, if you have to fill in, you could have him on your team as especially if you didn't get a lot at the wide receiver position, you're going heavy on running back or something. So, hey, Deante Johnson, although he's ranked 41st, that's about right. And we'll see. Moving on, Bryce Young comes in at the number 3 spot. Viability on that team, right? So, if you're in 2 quarterback leagues, Bryce Young, would be a great 3rd quarterback, right? Young's 5.5 yards per attempt were lowest among qualified quarterbacks. Only Sam Howell took more hits and sacks than Young did. Young had a league-high 15.3% of his passes charted inaccurate. For now the good news, they won't pull him, right? He's their future. They got to stick with him. So the point is, hey, there's his numbers from last year. You can see his weekly totals. Had some good games, but the whole point here is they're not going to pull him. He's their future, right? Let's take a look here. He does have the 5th easiest schedule. They've got him ranked 27th. Through longevity, he finished 23rd in fantasy last year. So why am I saying he'd be a great? Well, I would not really love him as my 2nd quarterback in 2 quarterback leagues. But the thing about him is, like we said, they ain't benching him. So if you come back early to the trough and get a 3rd quarterback in those 2 quarterback leagues before everyone else does, he ain't going to get benched, so he'll always be there if you need him. That's the best part about him, is if you go to him, if you need him, he'll probably be starting because he's their future. They're not going to move away from him. Moving on, Chubba Hubbard. Maybe we can get a running back out of this team. Chubba Hubbard's ranked 48th. So let's check out his stats. Hubbard, he might be the week 1 starter. This is what's great here. Jonathan Brooks might not be ready for that. He's not going to be ready for training camp. They keep hum on around about it. He had that surgery in November. I just don't. They probably put him on a PUP list. And then let Chubba run, baby, because he's going to get the first 4 weeks. All right, so see, hey, 8.4 last year, but hey, that's factoring in a lot of these early games where he wasn't getting a lot of the action. Look towards the end. Serviceable, but take a look at him. You see that they got the 7th easiest schedule, right? So that's a pretty good schedule. He finished 26th last year, all right? So the thing is, you could get some starting weeks out of him early. Get the first 4 weeks under your belt for this. Jonathan Brooks, who might start on the PUP, means he's going to miss 4 weeks. And they wouldn't be and if they know Jonathan Brooks coming back, they wouldn't be afraid to overuse Chubba Hubbard, right? He might get a lot of carries in those first 4 weeks. And it got one of the easier schedules there. They might rely on the running game. That's what they're saying. So that might be a good kind of early pick. And number 1's going to be Jonathan Brooks here. All right, he's the big talk. 46th overall in the draft. The new head coach, Dave Canales, says, hey, the Panthers are going to run the ball and run the ball some more. Take the pressure off Bryce Young. I still think they're going to start him on the PUP list. It might sit out the first 4 games. If he doesn't, and everything's going good, well, then he is going to probably go up the ranking a little higher because they'll just keep feeding him the ball if they feed him the ball. Right? We've seen what happened to Bjorn Robinson last year, but he does have no thing. But here he is the 22nd ranked. I think that's too high. Part-timer. You know, if he misses those first 4 weeks, we'll see. If he comes through and looks great in preseason, everything's systems go, well, then he's worth that 22er. But odds are he's going to sit out that first 4 or very eased in, and then you don't want that either. So, but Chubba Hubbard here, he might be the steal here on this team, getting the first 4 weeks by himself. Then he's discardable, or you could trade him maybe to the Brooks owner, you know, or something. But hey, a lot of times you just need that guy to get you through. If you have a suspended player or someone pulls a hammy and you get that other running back cheap, you could use Chubba Hubbard as a fill-in. But, all right. Oh, Fantasy AI. All right, moving on. If you're liking what you're seeing, please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. I like to say if you don't like what you're seeing, hey, please hit that like and subscribe button anyway. They'll never know. All right, moving on. Film my shorts. This is where I like to film my shorts. This is a rapid repeat. Fantasy AI with your Carolina fantasy roster. And Andy Dalton comes in as the backup quarterback. Tommy Tremble is going to be the backup tight end. Miles Sanders, third string running back. What a disappointment. Possible trade candidate, right? Xavier Sanders comes in next. Well, I've got him as the top tight end. May not start early, but we'll probably finish as the tight end. And Leggett comes in next as the third string receiver, currently not ranked. Adam Thelen's not ranked, but he'll be number 2 wide receiver on the team, playing the slot position. Deante Johnson comes in, probably be the number 1 wide receiver. They're ranked 41st. Pretty good receiver. How about Bryce Young? He's got some more new tools to work with. Comes in ranked 27th. Build up on that last year's performance. Chubba Hubbard comes in next. Backup running back, might start early. Jonathan Brooks is going to be ready from that knee injury. Will they start him on the PUP? Watch preseason, find out.